So, welcome to the podcast. As you can see, we're in a bit of a different change of scenery today. We're actually at Real Creative Studios. This is Phil Slatter. Thanks for having us in your studio, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Well, thanks for inviting me on for a start, and I'm glad that you could come into the studio to do it and do something a bit different.
Yeah, it looks great. Look at all the plants and the logo on the board. It's very professional in here. It looks great. So we're here today to just talk about video content.
Sure.
I guess there's nothing we have to talk about, but it's a very broad topic. So we'll start at the beginning, I think. So could you just tell us a little bit about your background, maybe what you studied at school? Did you always want to get into video content? How did your journey start?
Okay, well, I'll try and keep it fairly concise. I come from the UK, and I was interested in media, just I guess, films and TV, just like all kids are. I did media at GCSE. Quite enjoyed doing the film studies part of it, and instead of doing A-levels, I chose to go to college and I did a BTEC National Diploma in Moving Image. So I could kind of grow more into that area. And then when it came to choosing whether I wanted to go off to university or the world of work or travel or whatever, I didn't really have a burning desire to do travel or further study. So I went out looking for jobs. And I kind of went for a few jobs and kind of got to interview stage. And their advice to me was I had talent, but I lacked a bit of focus and kind of what I really wanted to specialize in. And they kind of said I could do with a bit more sort of life experience to figure out kind of what direction I want to go. Now, at the time, my parents were moving to Jersey. Mm-hmm. And all of my friends were going off around the world for, uni and studies and doing that travel stuff. So I thought, well, I'll come with them to Jersey, live on an island that I never heard of before where I don't know anyone. And we'll call that life experience and we'll see where it goes from there. And then I worked at Channel TV for probably about 5 years, I think. And that was brilliant. I got the only job that ever goes at ITV, which is kind of starting at the bottom as an assistant transmission controller, which back in the day meant taking tapes that cameramen and women had filmed and loading that into the system so that anyone could edit it. And then taking the edits that people had done and actually playing them out on tapes during the program when the director said roll tape. And then you'd be switching them around all the time and trying not to get yourself into a mess and play the wrong thing at the wrong time. Yeah. Yeah. But what was great about that was actually I got exposure to a live environment. So every single day at 6 o'clock, there was a bulletin, and whether I liked it or not, I had to put something out. And the smaller bulletins that weren't at 6 o'clock, I got to switch and direct, and you kind of do everything there. So you're directing the talent, you're setting up the cameras, you're doing the audio, the camera switching, playing the VTs, putting up the graphics on the screen. It's literally like a one-man show for all of those smaller bulletins. So that gave me really good exposure and foundation for kind of what's now become the world of streaming. Mm-hmm. But after about 5 years there, I moved to New Zealand with my now wife, and I actually worked at a mega church over there. They had their own creative department, and I did video production there. And I think it was quite hard for them to get me out of the habit of cutting and shooting in a news style, mm-hmm. Because it kind of ingrained into you the way kind of you shoot for news. But once I'd got out of that habit, I really loved kind of the creative editing. And at that point, I kind of knew I didn't want to go back into news. I wanted to be more creative and create interesting stuff that people want to watch and that it tells a story in an interesting way. So after about 8 or 9 months there, we had a decision whether I was going to continue there for at least another year and actually do a television show, which they wanted me to produce, or come back to Jersey and do our family life and everything else. And we decided to come back. I got an opportunity to start and grow a media production company over here, which I did with a group of other people, and that grew. And I was there for about 11 years. That business is closed now, and the opportunity was right for me to specialize and start a company that just does video production. So we don't do full service marketing, we don't touch design and kind of PR. We know what we do well, and we do video production, and so that's kind of landed us to right now.
Cool. So what made you? I mean, quite the backstory. That was a really interesting story. Thanks for sharing that with us. But what was the moment where you decided to take the plunge and you went, do you know what? I want to do this myself. I want to carve out that niche, like you've just mentioned there. You're not a full service agency, which is quite a saturated market, I would say, in
Yeah.
this day and age. And I think stuff is becoming more segmented. But made you decide, you know what, this is the route I'm going to go down?
I think it was just about being confident in what I can talk to clients about, what I know,
Mhm.
and knowing that I can deliver what they need. By just focusing on video production, I know that firstly, other agencies might want to use me as an add-on service for them, without any kind of threat of me taking their clients. But actually, more importantly, I work with a lot of in-house teams where they do the rollout of the marketing, and they do come up with their strategies and the comms plans. They just need someone to produce really good content.
Mhm.
And so I feel confident that with a small team and with some, strategic partners in specialist areas, we can like do a really, really good job there and not spread ourselves too thin.
Mhm. Cool. And you touched upon it a bit there, but why do you think that video content is so important in this day and age with regards to marketing? Like, obviously, all the channels are sort of set up for it now, and but where do you think? So, one, why is it important, and where do you see a lot of people kind of going wrong with their video content that they're curating?
Well, you just need to look through your social media feed to know why video is important. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, the algorithms are favoring video. But also, just because of the way that we are now as a society, we are more and more susceptible to, well, there's just messaging everywhere. So you need to stand out. And therefore, video is probably one of the most effective ways of doing that and communicating other than a face to face conversation. I can't really think of many more engaging ways. You could talk about VR and immersive media, but actually, you can communicate to people at scale with the right tone of voice in the right way, using video, and therefore it is an engaging method of communication. And anyone that's not using it is kind of falling behind because their
Mhm.
competitors are. So it's become a hugely important part of the media mix for any marketing department or brand. And yeah, I don't see it kind of getting any smaller. I think just more and more people recognize the need for content that's quality, and because it's so easy for people to kind of film a video on their mobile phone,
Mm.
the people that want to really stand out recognize the need for higher quality production content.
Mhm.
The cream rises to the top.
There you go. So what? I mean, I certainly like. Obviously, I work in marketing. I
Yeah.
have a few marketing pet peeves that I um, see people do, whether it's really dull LinkedIn posts or just kind of. I think my favorite at the moment is just the same content across all the channels and all the
Yeah.
platforms where they don't kind of curate per platform. But what would you say your biggest video pet peeve is? Now, this could be even like when someone gives you a pitch and you already know that you're like, this is a terrible idea. This doesn't even translate into video, or, in the execution stage. What's your favorite pet peeve?
I always kind of have a little chuckle to myself when I see a landscape video that's been turned portrait, but then uploaded in landscape. So, or the other way around. So you end up with a very, very small video with lots of black bars and crops on either side, and the amount of space that it actually takes up on your screen is minimized significantly. In terms of kind of quality of content, actually posting regularly and consistently is probably more important than the standard, and
Hmm.
whether you're shooting in 8K or amazing lighting and stuff. Actually, if you've got a good message to tell, then that's more important. So I suppose one of my pet peeves might be people waffling on or not editing their videos down.
Hmm.
When it comes to a client and the kind of briefs that I get, I think it's the sort of how much for a video kind of approach, or
Hmm.
can you make me a viral video?
Yeah.
That
That's always
probably
good. Though,
is a bit of a red flag.
In the mix, and you're like, oh yeah, we'll just make something viral. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
No, cool. It's interesting to know, isn't there? Because I think across the board with anything creative, it's so open for criticism. Because I read a quote the other day, and I'm going to butcher the quote, so I'm not going to say it exactly, but it was marketing or content is basically the easiest for everyone to have an opinion on, and the hardest thing to understand the strategy and the execution of. And I think particularly in video, that's one of those, because in my limited sort of 5 years working in marketing, the amount of times I've seen companies or other people basically just kind of making content for content's sake
yeah,
without actually understanding the why behind you're doing something. And I think
yeah,
video especially becomes one of those, especially if it's a bigger company and you have budget, and it's like, well, we'll get a video, and you're
yeah,
kind of sitting there thinking, what's this video hoping to achieve? Why are we actually doing it in this format instead of reels would have worked, for example, or it should
yeah.
have been a YouTube short or whatever. So it's interesting to see how the space is kind of moving towards different types of video and the success of different types of video, and how some people haven't caught up with that yet?
Yeah, and I think just people like this is one of the most important things is just getting clarity on what any given video or a piece of media in general is actually meant to achieve,
Mhm.
and the strategy behind a video is almost more important than the video itself because you might kind of come up with a concept or a campaign that's really really low tech,
Mhm.
but if you just go out and film a really low tech video that's got no thought behind it, it will flop.
Mhm.
But if you film that strategically and you have your messaging in mind and everything, then actually it could be viral. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be incredibly successful and generate tons of leads for you. So just knowing clearly what your outcome is, and then creating the video that works for that
Mhm.
is essential, and should be in any decent marketer will be doing that anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, going out without a plan is problem number one.
It's tricky. Yeah, for sure. So what's one sort of common misconception about video in general that you'd like to share with everyone that you kind of stumble across a lot in your day-to-day work?
I think that it's hard,
Mhm.
or that it's unachievable. It takes too much time. I've just given you more than one,
Mhm.
and that it's expensive.
Mhm.
So with good planning and smart strategy, actually, it doesn't need to be expensive. There are so many kind of time and cost benefits in shooting in bulk, batch creation, repurposing content. We're doing a long form podcast now. This can be chopped up into multiple individual pieces. We can take some of the quotes and put them on Twitter and Instagram. We can use the photography from here. So actually one piece of media can be reused and repurposed many, many times. So it doesn't need to be onerous,
Mhm.
and it doesn't need to be expensive with the right amount of planning. I think that's probably the biggest barrier to entry for a lot of people, is that they think it's going to just suck up a lot of time. And actually, if I can just sort of add one more, I think it's that
Mhm.
people don't necessarily realize that they have value to share to people.
Mhm.
When you're in your own world and doing the thing that you do every day, you don't realize that what you are an expert in, lots of people just don't know a lot of the really basics and the fundamentals.
Mhm.
And if you can share that, then you might think something's really simple and obvious and it's not worth it, but actually that could bring real value to someone.
Mhm.
And then you're just establishing your position in the marketplace as someone that knows their stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that people have when it comes to creating content, and actually it's really easy to overcome.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of overcomplicating that goes on with stuff,
Yeah.
especially when you're just trying to communicate a simple brand mission and vision sort of thing within a video. It doesn't have to be all bells and whistles and really complicated. It can literally be like I don't know, a 30-second explainer video that is filmed on your phone, for example. That can fit the bill. And I think there's this misconception that it has to be this massive cinematic kind of approach to things, when in reality that's not necessarily the case. So where do you see most people go wrong with their video and content strategy in general? I know we've sort of touched upon it there a little bit, but is it because people are trying to achieve too much through video without considering what they can do on other channels? Is it that they've not thought through the actual video content too much itself, or is it just that they're approaching it like through the wrong lens?
Probably the thing that I find most common is that people expect a video to be able to do too many things in one.
Hmm.
So I had a briefing the other day where they had a product that they wanted a 60-second commercial for. Effectively, there was a list of all of the features and benefits that it can solve, and even just reading the first paragraph took me 30 seconds to a minute to kind of actually understand what it is they're doing.
Here's
So
the marketing brief. Everything in this.
yeah, or someone gives you a page of text and says, "Can you put this into an A5 flyer?" It's like,
Yeah.
well, no,
Not really.
because
Yeah.
you've given me more than an
Funny enough,
A5
you can't actually. Yeah.
of copy. So I think something trying to be too many things in one is probably the most common scenario. But actually, again, that's really easily overcome with a good plan and strategy. So
Mhm.
understanding your audience and saying, we've got these people that have these issues or these challenges, and this product or service helps them overcome that. Creating some content that is relatable to that audience and just piques their interest might be all that's required for that hero video, the ad
Mhm.
that they're going to see on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube pre-roll, whatever it is. And then that's the top of funnel stuff
Mhm.
that gets people into the next phase. And then you're into more of an awareness. That's like kind of your awareness. and then there's some interest and some desire perhaps, and then so what do you need to give them at that stage
Hmm.
that's going to help them? Standard marketing funnel things,
Yeah.
but actually sometimes 3 or 4 pieces of content and repurposed and used for retargeting, perhaps even with the same budget, but just carved up in different ways,
Hmm.
is a better approach than just trying to do one video that does everything. Because by saying everything, you say nothing.
Absolutely. There you go. There's your key quote for the
That's
little
the quote. We'll
30,
chop that one
30,
up.
30-second little snippet video. Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it there with the funnel. I think it's not to fully nerd out on marketing funnel kind of terminology at the moment, but I do think it's something that is consistently unconsidered enough. Is where within the funnel is this sitting? If
Yeah.
you're producing a bit of content for top of the funnel, and this is a brand piece that's trying to, attract a broader audience and then push them through the funnel, and then you have your, I don't know, 10-second explainer video further down the funnel. I think that's something that's not considered enough really when you're looking at video content. I see that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just to go back to kind of what got you into like content creation, videography, etc. Because how long have you been running? So Real Creative now, that's been running for.
We kind of officially started in June when I left my previous role.
Mhm.
So at the time of recording, that's about 6 months.
Okay, cool. And how have you found your first 6 months?
Amazing. Like
Yeah.
it's great kind of being my own boss and kind of following my gut instinct in terms of the direction that we should take the business and what we should invest in and how we should operate.
Mhm.
This new studio was a big investment, but I knew that video podcasting in general, the thought leadership that can be done in here, the live streaming, all of the different capabilities that we have in here would be well worth it. And I didn't have to go through a lot of red tape to make it happen. I just kind of thought, right, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is,
Mm.
and it's paying off. So it's going well, and I can kind of focus on the opportunities that I think are going to be most rewarding and beneficial for the marketplace as well. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't want to get
Smashing.
too far ahead, but yeah, I like the freedom, and I like kind of creating the company that I would want to work in. Really,
Yeah, being captain of your own ship. as it
yeah,
were.
yeah. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on in the background. The admin and the kind of running the business side of
Mhm.
stuff that's new to me, but I embrace that, and good people around me that are all willing to learn and to chip in and help and everything, and we're all on the same team, and we know where we want to go. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited.
Nice. And as captain of your own ship, as you said there, how do you go about managing kind of your time? Because I think I mean, I'm very guilty of this, both in work and outside of work. When I get really stuck into a project, other things can, fall by the wayside. Sort of before you know it, you're not going to the gym anymore, and you're not spending time with your partner or whatever because you're so focused on a project. Must be hugely amplified when it's like an actual commercial entity that you're dealing with. Sort of what advice would you give to people that are thinking of entering that space, or currently in the inception of doing something and they don't really know how to manage their time effectively? What are your sort of top tips, and how do you manage that?
Well, I'd start by saying that I'm probably
don't.
not the best example to be drawing from here, but maybe I should kind of try and come up with some advice and try and follow it myself.
Yeah.
If you spoke to my wife and kids about how I manage my time, they'd probably say fairly inefficiently.
Yeah.
The truth is, it occupies your mind constantly,
Mhm.
so you can never really switch off. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, because I think if it wasn't always on my mind, then I probably wouldn't be passionate enough about the work that I do. And I'm ambitious, and I've got kind of big plans for the business, and I know that we'll be able to achieve them. We've got the skills and the technology, and the drive to do it. So I'm excited about that, and I'm glad that it occupies my mind a lot. Switching off and being present around others and enjoying the moment is something that I'm continually trying to work hard at, and
Yeah.
sometimes others need to remind me.
Mhm.
But in terms of advice for other people, I don't know. It's just I think it's just being aware of what you need.
Mhm.
I've not been to the gym for 11 years, so that was starting off on a bad foot. But
Yeah.
I think just kind of becoming more self-aware. Like, I'm definitely more aware of what I need. And
Mhm.
last week I didn't go to bed before midnight, and I knew that I needed really, really good sleep at the weekend.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I got that. But if I'd have started this weekend on that same platform, it would not have been
Mhm.
good for me. So just kind of knowing kind of what your triggers are, and where you burn out and what you need, and for me, I might play five-a-side football once a week or every other week. Actually, I really need that time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let off some steam, score a few screamers, then
yeah,
carry
well,
on with the video.
at least let off the steam.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll be just doing the washing up or making the kids' lunchboxes and watching YouTube content about the latest camera or something. And actually, I need to be more self-aware and say, I can just be in my own thoughts and
Yeah.
not constantly researching and learning and trying to prove. And that's probably something that I find quite hard to do and should do more of. Just stop consuming and just be.
Yeah.
Just be.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's part and parcel of being in the creative industries, isn't it? Is that you meet a lot of passionate people, a lot of creative people that do kind of view the world in a certain way. And it is very difficult to, like, obviously with me being a musician as well, it's very difficult to switch off because I have the kind of creative marketing head on me and I have the creative musical head. And, I kind of bounce from one to the other, and you're either like, oh, that'd be a great idea for like a song, or, oh, that'd be a great idea for a piece of content. And when you're, the world we live in, when there's constantly a screen or audio wherever you go, it's very difficult to just kind of sit there for 5 minutes and go, what would I actually be thinking about if I wasn't thinking about like content, work, etc.
Yeah.
Now, just to kind of move more towards, like, we're obviously doing a podcast today.
Yeah.
A lot of, in case anyone didn't realize, doing a podcast today, a lot of companies now using podcasts. I spend quite a lot of time listening to podcasts. I think they're a great format to get information. You've obviously got this studio kind of waiting for we're not waiting for podcasts to become popular. They already are, but you've built a studio so you can facilitate people coming in and doing podcasts. Why do you think they've become such a popular format?
It's hard to say. I've done a lot of research into it. I think there's something about not staring at the screen permanently, and actually just being able to listen whilst you commute, whilst you're painting your fence, whilst you're on a walk, and still, kind of get the entertainment, the buzz, the knowledge, whatever you're using it for, whilst without having to actually stare at a phone. So it's kind of a secondary medium. So you can do both. You can be in the gym and you can be
it's less evasive, isn't it, than having to watch a video?
Yeah. In terms of kind of from a marketing perspective, why I think they're popular is because they are such a good format to get content from with such not minimal effort, but you're maximizing your effort. So this is a video. It will also be an audio track. So whether people prefer to listen or watch, they can. But you can also create lots of smaller clips out of it that can be used on YouTube Shorts, on Instagram Reels, on your feed, on TikTok, and everywhere else. As I was saying earlier, you can also take extracts from this and turn them into, quotes on the website. You can put them on Twitter, on social media. You can transcribe this, and you've got a long form article with a little bit of editing. There's so many different things that you can do from one piece of preparation and a conversation that actually it's a really effective tool for content generation. And you could fill up your content calendar for a month just by doing one or two podcasts. So, it just helps you kind of broaden your audience really from a marketing perspective.
Yeah. And if you were to kind of pitch to someone on the importance of podcasting, so say, I don't know, you're a small business and you're thinking, maybe I should explore the podcasting avenue, what would you say to them, or what would you suggest the things they need to be thinking about before they, pick up the phone and ring you and say, I want to come and do a podcast?
Well, I think the first barrier that people have is wondering whether they've got the time, and you do if you put your think about where your priorities are. You do have the time to do it. But secondly, I would say one of the biggest things that people struggle with is whether they've got enough to actually contribute, and whether they've got information that's worthy of sharing. And I have this conversation quite regularly with people. For instance, if you were to go to this company's website and they had a frequently asked questions page, that's your first 10 questions that you can answer in a podcast. And then just kind of ask your sales team or your customer service team or whatever, who kind of what are the most frequent questions that we're getting? What kind of stuff do you find yourself explaining over and over again? Well, that's more content. And then once you start to analyze the content and what's getting good engagement and what's sparking more questions, and who could you bring in to actually kind of go a bit deeper onto this, actually the content just kind of starts spiraling, and then you end up with more ideas than you can actually produce. So it's just getting started really. The important thing is that you're not just creating content for content's sake. So, which you talked about as being one of your pet peeves.
Yeah.
Are you genuinely offering value to that marketplace, and if so, by creating this content, you are elevating your own position in the marketplace, and you will be considered much higher when people actually come to using a service that you provide. You don't need to sell
Yeah.
at all. You're just, I could tell people how to make their own videos and films all day long, but I know that most of them won't. But when they're in a position where they need a video, or they just want someone that knows their stuff, they'll come to me because they already know that I've got all of this knowledge because I've shared it.
Yeah.
And it's not about setting, kind of putting myself out there as I'm the best. It's just, I'm here to help. And by the way, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think this is where people get clouded between the difference between sort of brand marketing and sales. I think the bulk of marketing exists to do what you said, is to make sure that you're front of mind when people then are ready to convert, whatever that may be, whether it's a service to buy a product or whatever. The sales part is the closing part. And I think when you have content that's kind of sales centric all the time, that goes over the heads of 90% of people, because you can see straight through it.
No one likes to be sold to, do they?
Like, people, what works better from a content format is that people will stop and watch stuff that they want to see. It so happens that sometimes that is actually an ad, but you don't know that it's an ad, right? That's where content performs the best, but it's something that's consistently missed, because I think you get like a head of commercial department, for example, being like, right, we really need to drive Black Friday sales, and they think that kind of performance-based marketing strategy right there and then translates best into like a video sales kind of piece of content, when in actuality, if you'd been building your brand presence from the January before and you're ramping it up to here, you don't need to do all this performance marketing at this stage and all start pulling your hair out thinking we're not going to meet all of our targets, because you're already front of mind. So people know it's Black Friday, then they come straight to your page because you're the brand that they've been thinking about already, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and like on a far more human level, I just think help people.
Yeah.
Like if you've got something
value,
that you can,
right?
Yeah. But I mean, even that's like, it's marketing talk. I'm kind of, I catch myself saying it too much, and this sort of value thing is important, but actually it can be overused.
Yeah.
And actually, I just want to help people produce better content. If I can do that by sharing some of my knowledge, then great. And if I can do that by offering the services that we provide at Real, then great as well.
Yeah.
But actually, I just think if someone's got a challenge and you can contribute to helping them solve it, then why would you keep that to yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny, isn't it? Because I think, obviously, I've only really been, I'm 5 years into the world of work or whatever, and worked in different industries before, but it's very easy, the bigger kind of commercial entities or whatever that you work in, to forget that you're actually dealing with people all of a sudden, because there's all this terminology when you're looking at like sales, conversions, visits, impressions. And it's like, well, ultimately, like you were saying there, we are just talking to people here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm a person. What would I want to see?
Yeah.
What would I want to engage with? And I think it's something that's forgotten about quite often when you're looking at content, because I think people forget you need to look at what the user, see, there we go again, calling them a user, but look at what the person or people behind the screen actually want to engage with, not just what you want to say.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's something that's kind of consistently missed across content, but maybe that's just a Jersey thing. Who knows? I don't think it is. It's everywhere, I guess.
I think it's a cultural thing, and like the little bit of contribution that I can make to helping that, then great.
Happy days, yeah. Right, so hopefully by the time this podcast actually goes out, it will be before Christmas. It might be after Christmas, but this is still a valid question, I think, because you're in the video space. It's a common debate amongst creative agencies this time of year. Usually
Are we going to talk Christmas ads?
We're talking Christmas ads, yeah. Now, I know my favourite ever Christmas ad. It'd probably be the John Lewis one with the guy on the moon, or there's the Elton John one, which probably because I'm a musician, but when he opens the piano and starts playing it in the lounge, it brings a tear to my eye, because I'm a big softie like that. But what's your favourite Christmas ad? But not to make it too Christmassy, we can go with what's your favourite ad ever. You can throw it in the mix, but Christmas ad preferably.
I don't know about my favourite ad of all time, but I can tell you, I mean, I was a big fan of all the John Lewis ones. And they've obviously changed their tact. And actually, I quite like the tact that they've taken this year of not really selling their products at all, and actually just telling an emotional story. From a storytelling point of view, I really like that. But my favourite ad, and I've put this out there in public already on LinkedIn, is hands down the Elf one from Asda.
Yeah.
Because my favorite Christmas movie is Elf.
Yeah.
And the way that they've integrated those, like all of the best clips into their advert to kind of showcase their products, I think is just absolutely brilliant.
Mhm.
So whoever came up with that idea deserves a massive pat on the back, and the person that went through painstakingly and rotoscoped every single clip from Elf to get it in there and work it in, I just think they just did a really, really brilliant job. And it's a concept that I haven't seen before. So there's a lot of animation out there. Audi have done a really good one this year. Sainsbury's, John Lewis, kind of all going down that emotional storytelling, and actually the Asda one just really brought a smile to my face.
Yeah, who doesn't love a bit of Elf, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it can't go wrong. So with regards to like your own work, you've obviously worked on a lot of different projects across your time. What's your favorite project you've ever worked on, and why?
Oh, that's a big question. Actually, I don't know whether I would be able to even talk about it, because it might have been an internal project. I do quite a lot of internal projects.
Oh, right, okay. Secret projects.
Well, no, just so a lot of the work that we do is communicating to internal teams and creating content that helps businesses kind of all get the same message at the same time.
Oh, like employer brand sort of
employer
stuff.
branding, but also, if a message gets put out in Jersey in a team meeting, and then the same message gets relayed to another company or another department in Luxembourg, another one in the US, then that messaging can just sort of all become a little bit Chinese whispers, and not everyone singing from the same song sheet.
Mhm.
So actually, some of the best content that I've created is internal messaging, where we've done effectively like TV shows, where we've brought people in from around the group, centralized it, done Q&As, put in some cool videos in between, and everyone around an international group has actually just sat and watched a live show that's got all sorts of fun elements in it, lots of interactivity, polls and stuff like that. And that's good, because that you've firstly created content that thousands of people have seen all in one go,
Mhm.
which is cool, but also that you've helped that business solve a real challenge, which is how do you communicate to everyone so that they can get the same message in the same way, understand it, and there's no kind of miscommunication. Another few videos that we've produced at Christmas time. So we've been out down to Hyde Park, and we had the directors doing some skating on the ice.
Right.
Except we got actual quality figure skaters in, and we dressed them up the same, and we produced a little skit where it looked like they were
Nice.
basically one-upping each
Stunt
other
doubles
constantly.
sort of
Yeah,
thing.
and we were doing stunt doubles, and the ice skaters that we were using were like people that help train on dancing on ice and stuff like that. So they were really, really good, and that was a really fun piece to put together.
Oh, cool! No, that sounds great. So I'm aware we've got limited time left, but are there any upcoming projects that you want to tell anyone about that we should keep an eye out for, or is it all kind of under wraps and watch this space?
It's watch this space, but I can say that by the time this goes out, I would have signed my first kind of truly international client, which is a US SaaS company, which I'm really excited about creating content for, because we're gonna produce some really nice adverts for them, and then lots of kind of additional next phase of the funnel type stuff. So I'm excited to be working for a company that gets it and understands the value, and is like keen to put on a strategy that involves video. So that's cool.
Cool. And if people listening to this are interested in what you do, you've said you're all about the people and helping the people and stuff like that. If they want to get in contact with you, how's best for them to do that?
Yeah, so the website is real.je. Real is spelt with 2 E's. Or you can email me or follow me on LinkedIn at Phil Slatter. And we're recruiting at the moment as well. We need another content creator to kind of help us fulfill all of the work that we've got on. So if you're interested in video production, and you spend all of your time watching YouTube videos about cameras and everything else, then get in touch, because we might have a space for you.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for chatting to me today.
Thanks for having me, Marcus.
No worries.